Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. I am really honored to introduce to you Tim Ballard. He spent more than a decade working as a special agent for the Department of Homeland Security. He is now the founder of Operation Underground Railroad. He's also the subject of a fantastic new movie that's going to be coming out from Angel Studios called Sound of Freedom, which I just watched last night, and I'll be reviewing later. And very, very moving experience. Tim Ballard, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ed, for having me on.
Well, I mean, first question for you is, how does it feel to have a movie made about you? Because that's got to be a little bit of a different sort of experience.
Yeah, very different, very surreal. It's bizarre, really bizarre. But I'm glad they, the film depicts, true events, and all the kids are real, all the bad guys are real, the good guys are real. So in the end, even though you're looking at someone that's not you, definitely the stories that matter, the stories that hopefully will lead to solutions to this problem, are accurate enough so to make it a convincing picture. So,
I mean, I agree. And people do have to remember that it's based on true events. It's told in a dramatic fashion to underscore the real issue here, which is child trafficking and slavery. I mean, there's a part at the very end of the movie. It's, a screen crawl at the end of the movie that talks about how there are more people enslaved now than there were when slavery was legal. And part of what you were doing at the Department of Homeland Security, and now what you're doing at Operation Underground Railroad, is trying to end that cycle and trying to free as many people as you can, especially children.
That's right. That's right. We are, and I also run I'm the CEO of something called the Nazarene Fund, which does similar work, mostly for persecuted Christians and other religious minorities in the Middle East, Africa. We attack organ harvesting rings, to child organ harvesting rings, as well as witch doctory and all this crazy stuff that's happening. So the world is a very ugly place for millions of children, and probably the most effective thing we can do is talk about it and get people outraged about it. And I think this film does that.
And what's interesting too, because I paid very close attention to what the star James Caviezel says at the very end. There's a segment where he comes on while the credits are rolling and says, we need to talk about this. And there's actually a moment where he says, I'm going to tell you to do something you don't normally do in theaters. Take out your phones and take a picture of this screen thing so we can make sure that more and more people get this. But this film had a rocky journey to the theaters. I mean, one of the things that he talks about is that this was actually completed, I think, in 2018, and it just struggled to find distribution.
That's right. It went for years. It was owned by Fox, then it was owned by Disney, then the rights passed through several other hands. It's strange because the movie, just as a movie, it's very high quality. Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched hundreds of people watch it, and they're just, at the end, they're just stunned. The timing had to be right. The timing wasn't right before, and Angel Studios was the right partner. And I believe that it was meant to be for this time right now.
So, and again, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the movie because I want to talk about your work. I mean, I can talk about the movie because I've seen it, and maybe later on I'll get a chance to interview some of the people who were involved in making the movie. But I want to focus, Tim Ballard, on your work. Now, as I understand it, these events more or less transpired in 2013. Is that correct? Or in and around that time frame. And this I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2013 and into 2014. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is the reason why it depicts you leaving the Department of Homeland Security in order to operate on your own with some trusted partners to free these kids in this one instance, or a couple of instances, really. And that I'm assuming was the start of your working on your own with, again, more trusted partners, more and more people coming into this to help combat slavery, child trafficking, and all the rest of this.
That's right. So at the end, after that case kind of materialized and had success, we said, this works. This is a good model. The privatization of child rescue actually is a good thing. It works, and we privatize, but we don't have the authority. So we're always working, as the film shows, we're always with people with the authority. We're with the cops. So after that, I founded Operation Underground Railroad, which today is in 5 countries or 5 regions around the world, constantly doing operations. I'm the CEO of the Nazarene Fund, which is also infiltrating all sorts of criminal organizations. And the work continues, and we hope people will get behind those and support those organizations.
Tim, what role did faith play in your decision? This is a leap of faith in many different ways. You see this in the film, and just to make sure everybody understands this, the film doesn't necessarily really. I mean, the faith is part of that, but it's subtext, and it's not really, the main text of this thing. This is a really good film. Clearly, though, faith plays a role in this, and I'd like to get your let you talk about how faith played a role in allowing you to leave your job, and put yourself at risk when your family was back at home. And the film talks about how supportive your wife was in this. I mean, but that's a scary thing. It's scary in many different ways.
Yeah, faith was paramount to us in our decision. My wife and I had actually had several what I'd call spiritual downloads or promptings, whatever you want to call it, that we had to do this. We had to do this. And I was in the film. You see Amira Servino, the Academy Award-winning actress, who plays my wife. Yep. And I wish Catherine, my wife, deserved way more time in the film. Because her role was so important. And it wasn't just, you see when she calls me and says, quit your job and rescue the kids. I think they wanted to kind of save my reputation, the filmmakers, because what they didn't show how cowardice I was. It looked like I was pretty much going to do it. I wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was praying that my wife would say, this is a crazy idea. I mean, I had the idea, but it was kind of, I was just almost half joking, like, what if I just quit? And then she's like, well, would you save kids? And I'm like, well, I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah, we would, but we have 6 children of our own and I have no more money. And, I don't have much of a savings, and it was scary. But right. Ultimately, Catherine said to me, it was the second week of December 2013. And I told her, I've decided not to do this definitively. I'm just going to walk away from this operation. And she got pretty righteously indignant at me. And she said in very strong words, tone, and this is not paraphrase, this is verbatim because it struck my soul. She said, I will not let you jeopardize my salvation by not doing this. And so I believed her, and that's how she felt about it. So to say that faith was a big part of it, it was everything to us. It was, look, you're going to meet your maker someday, and what are you going to do? You're going to go back and tell him, well, I was more concerned about my comforts and my, right. my fear and my pain than I was about children who I knew had been taken and I knew were being raped for money. I mean, that's not going to be a comfortable meeting with your maker to have to say that you were too afraid. So I'm grateful for my wife and for that testimony she gave me, because I leaned on it until I was strong enough to get my own.
Right. This is sort of off the beaten path a little bit here, but I mean, that's the model of marriage, right? Which is, it's a model for salvation, and, it allows you to lean on each other and have that sort of, have that ability to help support each other's salvation at difficult moments. And clearly this was the experience that you and your wife had.
Absolutely. It was. And then I'm grateful it carried into the film, at least to some extent. I mean, I chose Jim Caviezel. I asked that Jim play me because, he's a phenomenal actor, but also he's a person of faith. That's important to me. And that comes out in his eyes. There's many scenes where I think, Ed, what I'm talking about, but his eyes say more than his mouth could possibly say. That's the kind of actor Jim is, because he is spiritual when it comes to it. He tries to kind of harness heavenly power, I think, to get the message across. One scriptural line that is life-saving for me, it gives me courage when I have no courage. It's that, Jesus made it very clear where he stood on children and child abuse. It's the one time he gets mafioso, even in his language, way beyond flipping over tables and outside the temple. I mean, he gets mafioso when he says that it's better that a millstone be wrapped around your neck and you tossed to the bottom of the sea than that you should hurt one of these children. So yeah, I know where he stands on this. He was very clear, and I need that. I need to know that, because I can go into dark places and know he's got my back. And then there's a scene, I won't say it because I don't want to spoiler alert, but Jim Caviezel, not knowing that scripture was powerful to me, he ad-libbed that scripture into the script. It wasn't in the script.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm amazed by that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you remember the scene, right?
I remember the scene. I remember the scene very, very.
And it's kind of a complex move he was doing, talking to this pedophile. It was even confusing. It was confusing to the pedophile himself. Why'd you just say that? But it was perfect, and he just ad-libbed it. It was not in the script, and they kept it because it was such a powerful scene in that moment.
Oh man, it was great. It was great. And I mean, I actually had to think, what is it that he's doing here? Because it contradicted what was going on. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that was an ad lib. I just assumed that was written into the script. It's great too. And the other great line that comes out of this is God's children are not for sale. And that's repeated not only a couple of times in dialogue, but also in music.
Right. And you can buy this shirt at angel.com. There you go.
There you go.
Wear them in the theater.
Wear it to the theater. And by the way, just to promote this again, it opens on July 4th. You can buy tickets ahead of time. You can buy tickets for other people. You can donate tickets for other people through the Angel Studios website for this, and I'll have all those links in the post and all that. But again, speaking with Tim Ballard. Now, Tim, you're this is ongoing. This clearly didn't stop. You're still working on these things. You've got a couple of different ways that you are trying to help people out of slavery, out of bondage. How can people who are watching this help you? Obviously, go watch the film, talk about this, pray on it. But what other ways can people get involved to help you out?
I mean, right now, our ask, because we want to be really simple, is angel.com/SOF. Buy tickets. There's 2 million children estimated to be forced in commercial sex right now. So we want to represent each and every one of those. We want 2 million people in the theaters July 4th, using this opportunity to reflect upon our freedoms and what those freedoms mean and what our founding fathers and mothers did to give us that freedom. Well, let's pay that freedom forward. Let us now take that mantle and use this day of remembrance, really, of how we got freedom to pass that freedom on to the millions of children who do not have that. And so we just pray that at least 2 million people will buy tickets, come to the theaters, and really, really make a manifestation and make a more than a movie, a movement. I heard the director last night. I'm in Miami. We did the premiere for the show, for the movie. And at the end, Alejandro Monteverde, the brilliant screenwriter and director, he said, I've always wanted to make movies that begin when you leave the theater. And I just got chills when he said that. And everybody got it, what he said. Now the movie begins for you, because it's not a movie, it's a movement. And he believes that, the producers believe that, I believe that, and I think our audiences will believe that.
Well, I completely agree. And again, that's the point that Jim Caviezel himself makes as the credits are rolling. So if you go to the theater, stick around through the credits. I think most people do that these days anyway, but stick around through the credits, because Jim Caviezel has a very special message to give to audiences. I talked a little bit about that already. But yes, this should be a movement, and I don't think it's a big ask to get 2 million people in the theaters on July 4th. I'm planning to do it. I've watched the movie. I got a screener so I could do a review. I could interview you. I plan to be in the theater. I plan to get as many people with me in the theater on July 4th. Our church is already planning something about this, by the way. So I even have to do a whole lot of organizing, except just to tell people what a great movie this is. And I know that we're running short on time here, Tim, and I want to give you an opportunity to share anything else that you'd like to share, but I just want to share with you how grateful I am that you shared your story through this and saw it all the way through, and of course, for all of the hard work that you're doing, trying to rescue children.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you so much. Thanks to your audience. We've struggled getting mainstream media to talk about this, either because it's too dark or because there's, the people are more complicit than they want to admit, and they want to pretend it's not happening or downplay it. So I'm so grateful for people like you, Ed, who are not afraid to take on this issue and not afraid to take your light into dark places and expose your audience to dark places. Because really what you're doing is, and your audience is doing, is bringing, you're not bringing darkness into you, you're taking your light into the dark. And that's the only way we're going to end this. And so thank you so much.
Well, Tim Ballard, again, he's the founder of Operation Underground Railroad. He's the subject of a terrific film, Sound of Freedom, which is going to open on July 4th. It's a fantastic film. It is a top-notch action drama, but with such an important context. I just hope that everybody gets a chance to go out and see this. Tim, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ed.